you can't get mad. You can't let it get you, because you have to make a deal with everyone else, and it's almost unspoken that you are going to be fucked over at some point.
Did you ever think you'd see the day when Mel Gibson, the guy behind Braveheart and The Passion of the Christ, would take on Hollywood's woke culture? Well, that day has come. Gibson's rumored to be teaming up with other big names to launch an anti-woke movie studio. And honestly, it feels like the shakeup Hollywood desperately needs. But can they really pull it off and bring entertainment back to its roots? But before we get into the video, why don't you take a second to subscribe to our channel and like this video?
You have to still try and love those people.
Yeah,
Because that's the way they're thinking.
because it ain't personal.
No, it's not personal. They don't really mean to hurt you.
No.
Not really.
When you think of modern movies, especially those big blockbuster franchises like Marvel and Star Wars, you can't help but notice how much they've shifted. Now, it's not just about cool action scenes or thrilling storylines anymore. It's become all about being woke. But what does that even mean? Well, woke culture in media is essentially the growing push for films to focus on progressive ideologies. You've got movies these days constantly hammering home social justice messages, addressing issues of gender, race, and equality. Look, I get that those topics matter in the real world, but when I'm watching an action flick, I'm not tuning in to get a lecture. I'm there for the explosions, the character arcs, and the escapism. This shift has left a lot of longtime fans pretty frustrated. Take Marvel or Star Wars, for example. These were once franchises we could all get behind. Everyone loved them, but now you've got more people online voicing their dissatisfaction. They're not shy about it either. The Marvel movies, especially after Endgame, have been criticized for being more about promoting the message than creating engaging content. And let's not even get started on Star Wars. The latest trilogy became a battleground for gender and identity politics, and fans let their disappointment be known. It's no longer just a group of fans geeking out about their favorite heroes. It's become a culture war. People are tired of their favorite series being hijacked by agendas that don't fit the universe or the characters they fell in love with. Instead of clever writing and deep character development, we're getting storylines that feel more like forced moral lessons. And honestly, I can't blame them. It's like Hollywood has forgotten the primary reason people go to the movies in the first place: entertainment. Your average fan, probably like you and me, is there to escape from all the real-world chaos for a couple of hours. Instead, what do we get? Movies trying way too hard to be politically correct, making it difficult to fully immerse ourselves in the story. Mel Gibson is no stranger to stirring up conversation, both for his cinematic brilliance and his controversial off-screen antics. For decades, Gibson has been a heavyweight in Hollywood, whether it's through his unforgettable roles in Mad Max or Lethal Weapon, or his groundbreaking work as a director with films like Braveheart and The Passion of the Christ. These movies didn't just make waves, they redefined genres and earned Gibson critical acclaim and multiple Academy Awards. But his career has also been marked by moments of controversy, particularly his public comments, which have at times alienated him from Hollywood's elite. But here's the thing. Unlike many of his peers, Gibson has never been one to toe the line. He's always been an outspoken, bold figure, willing to challenge the status quo, even if it means facing backlash from the industry. That rebellious spirit is exactly why Gibson has now found himself at the forefront of a movement challenging Hollywood's increasingly woke culture. Recently, there have been reports suggesting that Gibson is leading an effort to establish a non-woke film production studio. The idea behind this is pretty straightforward. Get back to making movies that focus on good, old-fashioned storytelling, without all the political messaging that seems to dominate so much of Hollywood today. Think about it. How often have you walked out of a theater, or more likely closed your Netflix app, feeling like you just sat through a lecture on social justice, rather than a film meant to entertain? That's what Gibson is trying to fix. He wants to produce films that resonate with audiences because of their compelling narratives, not because they check the right political boxes. Gibson's vision for a non-woke production studio taps into a real frustration felt by a lot of moviegoers, especially those who feel alienated by Hollywood's constant need to inject progressive ideologies into every storyline. For Gibson, it's not about denying the existence of social issues or saying they don't matter. Instead, it's about bringing balance back to the art of filmmaking, where the focus is on character development, plot, and emotional resonance, rather than simply pushing an agenda. This anti-woke stance has made Gibson a bit of a hero to those who are tired of political correctness, taking precedence over creativity in the entertainment industry. Now onto the buzz about Robert Downey Jr. joining Gibson in his anti-woke crusade. For a while, rumors swirled that the Iron Man star was on board with Gibson's vision, ready to collaborate on this non-woke movie production studio. The very idea of Downey Jr., one of the most recognizable faces in modern cinema, teaming up with someone like Gibson had fans absolutely buzzing. The thought of Downey Jr. stepping away from the mainstream Hollywood machine to join forces with a figure like Gibson felt like a huge shift. After all, Downey Jr. is a guy who has spent the better part of the last decade leading the Marvel Cinematic Universe, one of the biggest, most politically aware franchises out there. There was an immediate wave of excitement from fans. The idea of these two Hollywood heavyweights joining forces felt like the ultimate slap in the face to the establishment. People have grown tired of the same cookie-cutter films that try too hard to be politically correct, and seeing someone like Downey Jr. express interest in bucking that trend. Well, it felt like a much-needed breath of fresh air. Fans flooded social media with comments about how Downey Jr. making this move would validate their own frustrations with Hollywood. It was like, finally, a major actor is seeing what we're seeing. Hollywood has lost its way, and something needs to change. But here's the kicker. While it was exciting to think about, the story turned out to be satire. Yep, that whole thing about Downey Jr. joining Gibson was part of a satirical article, not based in reality. Still, the fact that so many people believed it and were eager for it to be true says a lot about the current state of Hollywood. Even though it was satire, it struck a chord with fans because it reflected something real, a growing desire for change. People want actors and filmmakers to stop pandering to political correctness and to get back to making movies that people actually want to see. The satire may have been labeled as such, but it taps into a real sentiment. There's a sense among both fans and even some actors that Hollywood has taken the whole woke thing too far. There's a hunger for more balanced content, for films that don't feel like they're trying to beat you over the head with a political message. And who knows? Maybe the satirical story was just the start. With the way things are going, it wouldn't be surprising if more stars, including someone like Downey Jr., eventually do step away from the woke machine and follow Gibson's lead. It might not have happened yet, but fans are hopeful, and that says a lot about where the industry could be headed. It's no secret that the whole anti-woke movement is gaining serious momentum in Hollywood. You can almost feel it, right? More and more actors, directors, and production companies are getting fed up with the constant political messaging shoved into every script, and they're looking for a way out. And let's be honest, who can blame them? For years, the industry has been hyper-focused on ticking all the right woke boxes, whether it's race, gender, or social issues, often at the expense of, actually telling a good story. But now, it seems like the tide is turning, and anti-woke productions are starting to look a lot more attractive to people who just want to make great films without the added baggage. What's happening here is pretty interesting. Hollywood has traditionally been this fortress of progressive ideals, but the cracks are starting to show. Actors and directors who once might have stayed silent are now speaking up. Not necessarily because they have some big political agenda, but because they're tired of being creatively stifled. They want to entertain, not lecture. And it's not just a few fringe actors either. We're talking big names who've built careers on compelling stories, powerful characters, and engaging plots. People who are realizing that the audience is hungry for something different. The potential for success with this kind of anti-woke movement is huge, especially with figures like Mel Gibson leading the charge. I mean, think about it. Gibson isn't just some minor player. He's an Academy Award-winning actor and director with a loyal fan base, and he's made a career out of taking risks. If anyone can pull off a full-scale anti-woke production studio, it's him. Picture this, a studio that doesn't pander to every trendy social cause, but instead focuses on delivering the kind of action, drama, and adventure that people actually want to see. It's not about being anti-progressive, it's about being pro-storytelling. And honestly, that's what Hollywood has been missing for a while now. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.